we don't got a lot of finesse going on, but shout out to the list that I want to cover. Speaking of not too much finesse, no, I'm just kidding, joking. What I mean by that is this is a very kind of consistent, samey, whatever you want to call it, to guys who are a little bit looking at a half empty kind of view of orc lists that we've seen since Index Hammer, almost literally for the reasons that we're going to go over. Yet you can tell that Jordan is very aware of what it takes to run orcs and made good adjustments, in my opinion, that into this kind of like the basics and the strength, the most common version way to run orcs. Of course, when I say an Index Hammer, I don't mean with Ghaz with 20 boys, but you would see Ghaz still back then sometimes, and you would see other the units we're going to talk about here. So I like that we're bringing it back, but this is what I mean when you don't really got to be fancy with orcs. You get good at what you've been running, and you keep getting it stuck in and understanding the missions and the layouts and such, which I do actually have the missions and the layouts for what he went through here. If he was aware of these, it makes a lot of sense for what he ended up taking on this list. Now, of course, I am biased because straight off the bat, I'm going to point to the big pig in the room. We got Mazrog Scragbag on this list. Boy, I miss Maz, man. I miss old Maz, absolutely. But, you know, there is something to be said, at least in our hearts, that we at least tried to consider running him as like a Demon Prince-esque type of thing, right? Where he's by himself, you know, he increases his toughness by 1 to not being when he's not with squigs, right? So at least he's a little bit more durable to small arms and weird different melee kind of profiles as well. So we got a solo Maz running around out here. No pigs in sight. Other than that, of course, we have the best beast boss ever, which is just a beast boss on foot with 10 beast snagga boys. Nice and simple, beautiful, right? If you don't know how to use them yet, trust me, look at some of our videos, re-rolling 5, the hit roll, fishing for 5s and lethals. Great combination, especially when you're trying to deal with Kitans that are happening right now, one-shot demons that are running around a lot right now. There's a lot of reasons why you would stick this unit on your list absolutely every time, which is what it's been to be said since the beginning of the edition, guys, right? This is what we've been seeing the whole time and why he's so beloved. Then we go into the Big Mac with his Drilla and a custom Mega Blaster, and then he has Follow Me Lads, of course. That's with Ghaz and the 20 boys, absolutely. Starting on the table, here we go when it's time to go, chucking themselves up the field. Very fast, very awesome, especially when we look at the layouts that he was playing into. On this, you can just imagine the pressure the enemy's already feeling when you're looking at the rest of this list too. Then we go into the Boss Schnickra, which is something to be said about the amount of epic characters on the Orcs list and just all 40k lists, like Tactical Turtles was saying the other day. But I appreciate it, and I think about it a lot, even on Orcs. We're running a lot of Boss Schnickra, run a lot of Ghaz, and then now we got some Maz or a Zod or whatever people want to say, right? What I will also mention to the guys that don't listen to lore or don't care, sorry, Boss Schnickra doesn't actually like Ghaz that much. So it's funny to see them kind of be forced to see him on the list all the time. Then we move on to a simple 1 individual war boss for 10. Now, to shuffle these gets around the field, we have 2 Battlewagons. The time of the truck is over. Not really. I don't mean actually over. But we're seeing even more and more Battlewagons being brought to the front, being used really as blitzer wagons, where they're taking multiple units within them, and or being used as launching pads for other stuff, such as Storm Boys, right? Because Storm Boys can actually go into Battlewagons. So there's a lot of time where you do kind of a leapfrog thing, when you start with Storm Boys on each one, and then they disembark, move 3, run to their designated locations of staging up, and then you also have something else, embark, if you have the capacity to do that safely. If you don't, you can do it just 1 unit, for example. Now, to be ferried around in this unit, the interesting take here was that we see the 10-man flash gets bringing themselves back again, where it's always back and forth. You guys let me know in chat how you guys feel about this and comments after. What is your real take about a 10-man unit of flash gets in Warhorde? Because I'm going to give mine, but I really do. I'm interested in this. There is a lot to be said about how it's just fantastic to have a unit that's just getting sustained lethal hits on 6s and shooting and fighting on the go turn in volume with the amount of punches they have, their threshold, the interesting strats that can still be used by them to be in Warhorde, or even just a funny Overwatch, chipping units down, whatever. But people always go, we'll just bring 5s for more activation. I'm totally cool with that. But the commitment it takes for enemies to just try to dislodge the whole 10 does take away from your other units. Now, if they pick out 2 different 5-man units, now you just have an inefficient unit, 2 little inefficient units. But if you try to chip away the 10-man, you take away 4 instead of 6. And the enemy has to go, okay, well, I have to continue doing that, or it's a very consistent, still punchy unit, right? So I actually kind of like it in in this, especially when you're doing the kind of jumping transport kind of thing where somebody's trying to get into another one and move them around and shuffle them and disembark. There's something to be said about when the wagon gets popped, people disembark in different locations with the 5-mans to be safe. But ultimately, this is just about presence on the field, a one-shot activation potentials. You know, that's really what you're looking for with this unit and how orcs are trying to play with War Horde is I just need to go. I just really need to hit right now and I'm not trying to have just these little units getting picked apart. Less and less often we're seeing the mass amounts of units of orcs being spread around everywhere, and then each one of those units kind of taking an enemy down, ganging up on enemy units or whatever. We're seeing less and less of that. It's looking like more and more big bricks, but that's just my little take. Tell me what you think. Then we go to, and comments are already replying right now, so don't worry, I'll read you guys before I go through his path to victory, because of course we do in his path. But we also have the 2 minimum size unit of Gretchen, screen your backfield, absolutely never letting someone get behind you at this point. Then you have the almost staple mandatory 2 5-man unit. I'm already breaking down what they are. 1 big 10-man unit of commandos into likely 2 5-man unit. This was interesting because when the change first happened, people were like, well, the commando change. Ended up that they were assuming wrong. It definitely mattered a lot, just like the gas change did for the 20 boys. So you're bringing almost them on almost every list, even with this Necron thing, right? When you look at the old videos I did, I was like, is there going to be a choice here? There wasn't a choice. We're taking 10. Both. All the infiltration, get up the field, make space, let's get it going. I love that. 10-man unit of knobs with a war bow. Then 2 5-man units of storm boys. So you can think of it as 2 different hammer units and you know, a knob unit and 10 flash skits, 1 battle wagon, beast snagger boy, and maybe the storm boy start another one, or vice versa, where you switch the knobs to another one, depending on the layout and who's staging where and the matchup on who you got to deliver and hit them with. A lot of the time, the beast boss is either used as a later game post-wall thing, or if it's a Catan type unit, demon, you got to pull out 1 shot. It's on the gas timing. And if it's just like a Space Marine matchup, you might put them out a little earlier to deal with some of their light armor vehicles and commitments they plays there. So interesting how you can kind of figure out the beast boss. That's what I'm saying. He can kind of determine where he goes in the wagon based off that. For both the wagons, we have the zap gun and the hard case. Love the zap gun. If it goes off, you feel excellent. A lot of damage, like 4 damage and anti-vehicle, I believe, a good AP. So fun chipping in that way as well. And as we look at the layouts, which he played on layout 7 and 1, there's good places for the wagons to stage up, get to their stage position, wait there kind of safely for later in the game, and then pop out to kind of be late game bullies, touching objectives, getting into fights, throwing the OC around, right? That's actually the best way to use wagons, not to just throw them forward, let them soak up the damage early and hope you fall in an open spot, right? That's only kind of like last condition based off I don't think you have enough firepower to follow up once you pop them. It's interesting in that way. So I like this list. Enough yapping. Let me see your chats real quick. And I said enough yapping in this. Let me see chats, right? But I mean, let me look at the chats real quick. And then we'll talk about his path to victory, and I'll talk about the missions he played and the layout again some more. But shout out to our get right here, the little swim. Where there's a wall, there's a way. Whoa, for the $5 super chat. Thank you very much. New to see you here. So nice to see you, and thank you very much for being so generous and being loud and proud as a new getter out here. So welcome. I see new spores are spawning all over the 40K universe as 11th edition and Dawn of War creep in. We hope to see more of you new gets around. So thank you very much. The little swim. This little swim where you were grot. And then another one from our boy, the Blood Moons Murder, for 21 months. Crazy to think that's 21 months, guys. Channel's been around for like almost 2.5 years or something like that. And Murder's been here the whole time. 10-man flash gets is the best Overwatch. Versatile, good stats. It's good because you can decide to pop lethal during, right? And it's already built in sustain. It almost feels like a shooting phase. Even if you don't do it, just letting the enemy know you can do it makes them think sometimes, right? It's like, I got the option. If it's 5-man, they're like, nah. But if it's a 10-man, they're like, oops, this might accidentally. You're like, I could just pop it. So yeah, shout out to you, Murder. Whoa. So let me know. Yeah, you guys are saying both. Chat's giving a pretty solid response, but comments, rewatch gang, you guys are going to let me know as well, I'm sure. Now, let's go to his path to victory right here. So here he is. He was the best of the people who took 2 losses. And, you know, sometimes people are like, well, to be good, you have to go undefeated. I need to absolutely X and 1 or more or greater. You know, I look at just people that I think that had good runs and good event plays. Or if you were, as to the individual, me or you and such, had a run similar to this, you would be somewhat proud, especially if you're playing orcs just because you love orcs and you stuck mobs on it. So that's why I wanted to show it, right? It's about just having a good time and crumping the whole time. So let's look at his win path. Let me just right away because I might accidentally forget this. I don't want to. This was day 1 layout 7, which if you know layout 7 has that big rectangular part right in the middle. That's good for staging up as well. Maybe I should have brought that up, but I think we can pull it up on your apps. Layout 7. Round 1 was mission D, which is Scorch, Earth, and Tipping. So make sure I didn't mess that up because I don't want to not mention that before I go into it. Sometimes I get going and then I just so right away he's going into with 1,000 suns, which from what I remember when I was looking at StatSuper, should we just pop over to StatSuper again? I don't know. I think they were doing all right for stats overall. Not sure if that's going to remain, but just saying. Looks like a different version because he didn't have Magnus. It doesn't seem like so. Yeah. So we had triple Demon Prince with wings, and we had double Terminator and Sorcerers and armor. So I know people love the Terminator spam. So we'll see what's going on. We have a Chaos Spawn, a Forge Fiend, 10-man unit of Scarab Occult Terminators, another 10-man unit of Scarab Occult Terminators with all their, you can see all their war gear. Two-man units of the Skatar Robot, some Zengor and Lions, another 10-man units of Zengors. Sorry, how that's all chatted up bunched up in the chat is pretty rough. So yeah, if you're playing layout 7 on them and you have the double wagon, very nice that you can just run up stage with Gaz near the middle terrain, behind that kind of in that building. Then you can have the wagons move up, take that middle section that can actually be moved over as well to a certain amount, and pop those guys out if you need to. Like I said, with the Storm Boys when you start your deployment line, which if you looked at, I don't think it was this one, which was what was that? Tipping point. No, tipping point. Tipping point. You can get like right on there when I was looking at it again. Yeah. So tipping point at one section, you're like right up on the terrain. This is just I'd already looked this over too, guys, but you know when it's live, your brain gets a little like, oops. Yeah, you start right up next to that terrain piece, and you can't move your whole wagon through that. And from what I remember when I looked through, but you can definitely stage up behind that, and units can get out and start kind of launching from there. As well as Gaz can kind of be in there behind it. It's such a big staging location. And then on the north side, the battle wagons can move up and try to stage behind that one, where you can just really overwhelm your opponents in that case. Plus, remember, Gaz can launch onto what they could be considered their natural expansion, depending not on this mission. Yeah, natural expansion. Gaz can launch through that terrain piece because of your Big Mac. That's the thing that I've had happen to me when I play layout 7 and 8 with the Big Mac and the Gaz brick. People sometimes want to line that wall, right? That half box. Yeah, guys, this is my house. That half box, they want to line it so you can't come through it. The boys and the Big Mac and the Gaz, right? Just run through it, jump onto their natural expansion if they don't want to play that. It's absolutely brutal to armies that aren't expecting that. So love it. Great job. Overwhelming. 1,000 Suns is definitely a way to play them, right? Because they have the damage. But you just got to get on them when you can. Then we go into his second game. Yeah, make sure I'm Where we go into the Necrons Awaken. This mission, make sure I'm was good old basic mission A, take and hold. Yeah, tipping point. Fantastic. So we have the Void Dragon, Luminar Suzeris, Emotech the Stormlord, Locust Destroyer, and double Scorpec Lords, followed by Technomancer, and this was Awaken. Reanimator, a Tomb Crawler. Haven't seen one of those in a long time. A big Brick of Wraith with the reanimating guy on the Feel No Pains. Double Doomsday Arc, Flayed One, and then a unit of one simple individual heavy destroyer, followed by some Ophidians and some Scorpec Destroyers. Those small units are just kind of getting picked up from orcs, right? We appreciate that when we go into Necrons. We're like, thanks, we'll dismantle some of your stuff, then just super punch out your units. Like I've shown before in past videos, yes, the Gaz unit absolutely bangs out this Wraith unit if it can make contact with all its boys and such. One-shot it if it has to. Not always as easy as you would want, right? Because they can play defensively and try to stop you, but nonetheless, very straightforward. They're coming forward with the big old Void Dragon. He's the big old base. You can get all your 10 snaggers into a fight with him. Really give him a hard time. Luminor Suzeris still gets brought down by I've had this plenty of times. 10 knobs and a war boss on the wall. Just punch out Luminor Suzeris also. So yeah, not that it's an easy game by any means, because it's still Awakened Dynasty and Necrons. They can still do work to you, but it didn't bring the tools necessarily that are most intimidating to orcs. And you're playing a basic take and hold, so you're pretty happy about that. Only on layout 7, right? Myself, layout 7. So then we move into his third game, which I've been seeing this as a pattern of difficulty for orcs personally, and it's happened to me before, where you go into the Grey Knights, the Warbane Task Force, doing all the damage, super reliable damage dealing army, and then they bring the triple missile librarians, which they all just act as big mortal wound bombs. A Tech Marine followed by Castellan Crow, and then one Grand Nemesis Dread Knight, 2 units of Strike Squads, triple Nemesis Dread Knight, still sticking around since the beginning of the edition, right? A 10-man unit of Purifiers, which absolutely brutalizes Orc Boys and such like that. When they do come out to play, they're like, all right, pick you up, get out of here, next repeat. And then 2 more units of Purifiers. So yeah, these units are a little bit more difficult to get contact when it's time, right? And once they do, it's if you don't make contact with enough of them on the wall, they do have the damage reliability, damage profiles of damage. Typically, you're like, well, they don't have great weapons for dealing with something like a battle wagon, for example. They do get some assistance from that between the Brotherhood Librarians for their mortal wounds, possibly. And then also just their innate rerolls on everything will obviously help the Dread Knights push through some damage too. So, and what the mission was here, from what I was looking at, which this was mission F, okay, hidden supplies and hammer and anvil. Okay, the primary there is going to be kind of easy to deal with. So yeah, I can see why that would be kind of an issue for him. He said he tried without Khal Drogo. That still worked out, Warpaint style. So let me make sure I get some of those down here. So lost that one. No shame in that. I've seen that a bunch of times with orcs right now, with between the mobility of some of the Grey Knight units, volume, all requiring you to be like, okay, I have to come in a real unit because they have 2-up saves. I can't really kill anything reliably in skirmish. Yeah, it's a big deal, right? Your flash gets become almost completely irrelevant in that matchup when everything is taking a 2-up save the whole time. You're like, I have to try to get in combat. It's a thing. It's all good though. Then we move into his 4th game. Now, 4th game. Now, this is when the layout has changed. This is day 2. This is where he's now into layout 1. And he immediately goes into the Chaos Knight. Now, you would think, well, this already looks kind of like, oh, I can deal with this. Double Abominance, of course, is respectable. They got a good output. But when the Knights want to bang it out with you, right, get stuck in, they're looking for trouble, especially with this kind of archetypal lift that he has. Then we have a Knight Despoiler. Gatling guns are a problem, but you have Battlewagons. You can be safe in there, not really expose gas until it's time. 1 Executioner, followed by double Carnivores, again, trying to get combat. And then 2 Stalkers, 2 Nurglings, and then a Beast of Nurgle. Now, the Nurglings can hypothetically slow your wagon and get in the way. That's why Mandos are so important as well, though, right? Seen plenty of people say that I'll just run my transports without the Mandos, bring more killing stuff. That's really why you want the Mandos. Battle wagon gets something gets away in the wagon. That boy is having a hard time moving anywhere. And that's not what you want as an orc. Absolutely never. So in that one, of course, matchup's going to matter to a degree where the Knights has to come get in their face. Orcs got to fight on death. Gas is lethal. You're blending those guys apart. And like I said, it was search and destroy. I didn't say this. Sorry. I said it was Mission J, Linchpin, and search and destroy. So that's what I was trying to allude to is you also have the ability that I can just run up on kind of stage up real easily on you because you don't have long range popping of my wagons and then get out and just smash into you. I know exactly where you're at. You're close to each other. I can whip my units around and hit multiple different things, spread my lethals to the most effectiveness. So nasty matchup. Then we go into his next loss, which was into what everybody can relate to if you've been playing War Horde, a tougher matchup of the Death Guard. Not only was it Death Guard, but he was playing Mission M, which is Purge the Foe, a Crucible of Battle. So again, kind of double things back to back on you to deal with. But hey, that's why context matter, boys. That's why we look at all this stuff if we can, because you got to take that into consideration, of course, when you're looking at lists, but also you as the individual. I'm struggling. Well, if you play into your Death Guard friend, everybody kind of struggles to a degree, right? Or can. So then we go into, but that doesn't mean you can't overcome it, because you see my boy still did to get into this game for it being purged. So we have Death Guard with Mortarion's Hammer. I used to have a Death Guard army, by the way, so I don't hate them. I like them a little bit. That's why I say more name. We have a Lord of Virulence, 2 of them. Good job on his end for just bringing 2 light characters, because that means he's going to have, which he does. He has triple Predator Destructors with auto cannons and las cannons, so actually something to kind of threaten those battle wagons, of course. Then we have, I think it was 2 units of Death Shroud Terminators as a 6-man, and then as a 3-man. Double Defilers, 1 floated bloat launcher, and then 2 units of Plague Burst Crawlers. Which at first you're like, the what's it called? Oh, we bought Blake Splitters. Okay, I was gonna say those side guns aren't as good anymore. But if you're bringing his Flamers, he can be coming forward with them, and then he also has the Plague Burst Mortar. So depending on the person, sometimes they'll decide I'm gonna go for your Grots. That way you have to actually screen something with your home field, or I'll bring Death Shroud back there. Or they start, like I said, playing the Purge game where they start picking up little stuff like maybe some Mandos who are already -1 to hit. So who cares that they're -1 to hit? Maybe he'll go for some Stormboys once they do get out and such. So there's that. And then also he can also chip units that are down. Maybe he just says, I'm going straight for Gaz's unit right away, just to make sure it doesn't be a threat. And he just starts throwing some Plague Burst Crawler mortars into it. That could be all be factors into it, right? That will determine based off the game scenario. But 65 points, so he was still in there, just scoring. Great job, Jordan. And then we move on to his last game where he came back loud and proud, getting stuck in Crumpin, where he got 100 points into the Necrons for the Scatter Star. So my boy was crumping Necrons all over the field. And whenever you see that from an Orc player, you know he knows what he's talking. He knows what he's doing, because lining up that good shot on them, Orcs always really have the potential when you build out the list right, and delivering it is when it comes to this part, right? Great job here. We have Hexmark Destroyer, Emotech Stormlord, Neskor, and whatever. Overlord with the Translocation Shroud, Technomancer, and the Silent King. Yeah, we're seeing a lot more Silent Kings, right? Canoptic Reanimator, a Spider, a big unit of Wraith, double Doomsday Arc, a Flayed Ones, and then 2 units of Heavy Destroyers and an Ophidian. So 100 points, not much to be said there. Obviously, when you have the King and you have the Wraiths, these lists are kind of linear. I'm trying to come forward and see if you can take it, and the Orcs are like, whoa, we're down, let's get it. And that's kind of what happened here, it looks like. As for the mission though, clicked the wrong thing. It was Terraform and Crucible Battle. So yeah, the Necron player had to come out, start playing Terraform. If not, Orc player just walks out, Terraform with the Mandos, Terraform with the Storm Boys, just decides I'm just gonna start terraforming everything. Necron player responds, Orc WAAAGH smashes into that. Not that it's that easy, like, but I'm saying you can kind of see how that plays out, right? And it was layout 1, like I said. So yeah, so my boy was able to get stuck in real nice. And I think the wagons were playing a big factor there. So with that being said, I'll go over his list one more time, and I'll go over the super chats because gets we're excited about him. It was a Beast Boss, a Big Mac with the Driller. I really like the Driller, by the way. Frick yeah, dude. 3 damage, good AP, barely any punches, but hey, I'll take it. Boss Snickrock, Ghazghkull-led. We got the Maz Rogue, which I really hope Maz participated. So Jordan, have you ever see this? That's all we want to know. You know, how Maz do, right? Can you advise? Can you suggest him? I will say he definitely can feel great into certain armies, certain units, pump out some good damage, take like 8 damage onto a Necron Catan to a certain degree, right? Especially in War Horde, he can spike it. So Maz could be cool with what's going on around right now. Try to take some stuff out. And it was an interesting take for him, because when there's so many wagons, you know that Maz really isn't that most appealing of a target. He can be to certain units that have like the ideal profile where they're like, well, I'm strength 10, so I have to. But you know that going to the table or playing with the table, right? 10 Snaggas, 20 boys, 2 wagons, 10 flash kits, which of course I want to hear guys got to say about flash kits. 2 minimum size unit Gretchen. We got the Mandos, not left to say. The Orc Scalpel unit, 10 knobs. Yeah. Knobs with gas, knobs with critical 5 pluses, with gas and lethals. You know, my boy was packing some heat when it comes down to you want to stat check him in the middle, dude. You're going to smash through. And then we have 2 Storm Boy units. So really like how he just keeps everything nice, really clean deployments, I'm sure, with those 2 wagons and kind of Mandos coming out in certain spots, Snickra. So you really have good table presence, good threat range all over the field. You have gas there, so no one really wants to crash into you all stupidly, because then you're like, here we go, fly across the field, smash into you anyway. So really good threat ranges and staging potential and safety and quick deployment and doing everything in good waves. So great job there. And I'm really excited. It makes me want to, maybe consider using double wagon. Shout out to our sponsors, the Baron of Dice, as they helped us do our wall tactic dice. So shout them out. Check them out in the description, 5% off in the discount, because nobody likes taxes. And shout out to Baron of Dice. They allow us to do our paint competition. So thank you very much to them. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!